Hello again and welcome to the Guns Magazine podcast. I'm your host and the editor of Guns Magazine, Brent Wheat. We've got a great and interesting episode for you today. Have you ever wondered what it would like to be on Baywatch if you were a cop? You know, running down the beach, sun, sand, surf, beautiful people. Well, Suzi Huntington worked the beach patrol in San Diego, and she's going to tell you what it's really like to work down on the beach. But first, before we do that, here's a word from our great sponsor, 4 Patriots.
Prepare for those just-in-case situations with delicious and long-lasting emergency food kits from 4 Patriots. These survival meals will give your family the energy they need to get through any emergency. Their survival food kits are a great combination of taste and shelf life, making them perfect for any situation. And as a special offer to the Guns Magazine podcast audience, if you go to 4patriots.com/gunmag, you'll get weekly special deals and discounts. That's 4patriots.com/gunmag.
Well, good afternoon, Suzi.
Good afternoon, Brent.
Well, Happy New Year. This is our first podcast of 2024. Hopefully it'll be the first of at least 52, but appreciate you joining us to talk about something that I think is pretty fascinating, which is, I call it Baywatch. You call it what, the Harbor Patrol Team or something?
No, it was San Diego Police Department Northern Division Beach Team, NBET.
Beach team.
Yes,
okay.
Beach Enforcement Team.
Okay. You worked that for a while you were on San Diego PD, and honestly, I mean, I'm sure the snickers of, well, they're just Baywatch and all that, but I'm sure there was quite a bit more to it, and I also imagine there was a lot of fun stories too. So I thought the middle of winter is a great time to talk about the sun and the surf and the sand of Southern California. So I got to say, I know it was a job, but it was a job that probably didn't suck, right?
Oh, gosh. Well, there were moments when it sucked. But because if you think of a beach team and they really gear up during the summer months because that's when the beaches get invaded by everybody. So we would have 2 teams, 1, 2, 3. I think there were actually 4 squads. So 2 during the day, 2 at night during summer months. And then during the winter months or off season, there would be a full year-round beach team, and I got to be on that too. So I was on beach team for probably a total of about 2 years total. And by the time I was done, I was done. Summertime.
Yeah,
it's party call after party call, drunks, bums, gangsters. Gangsters came out to declare that this little patch of sand was theirs.
Ah.
So, yeah, it was interesting.
Wow. So, well, I never thought about, again, Southern California, surf, sand, sun, all that stuff. But with the Pacific Ocean, it's pretty chilly there in the winter. So did that slow things down? Well, I know it slowed things down, but did the calls change? I mean, were, more bums, less bums, or just how was the winter different than the summer?
Winter was basically keeping herd over the transient population, trying to keep the property owners in the beach happy that they didn't have to deal with a transient living underneath their boat or on their boat if it was in the harbor, Yeah. Doing that, again, plenty of drunk parties and revelry during the weekends.
Yeah.
But you got into excellent shape because you were either on an ATV or riding a bike or on foot, usually on the sand. It wasn't unusual for us to ride our bikes from, say, Mission Beach up to La Jolla.
Oh, my.
And just be making contacts all along the way.
Wow. Yeah, it doesn't sound like the kind of thing where maybe you just sit around and eat donuts all day. Pretty active. So, okay, let's get with the basics. What kind of uniform? I assume it wasn't bathing suits and a shoulder holster or whatever. What did you guys wear during patrol time?
Well, let's get one thing straight. So, Roy was on the harbor unit, so he was on the boats.
Mm-hmm.
So he was really more Baywatch than I was, right? Because he worked closely with lifeguards.
Yeah.
And he's not here for me to, I can say this. His IQ went down.
Ah, okay. As the binoculars went up, right?
Of course. He has lots of pictures of him with bikini-clad girls, and that's fine.
Oh, really? Okay.
So on the beach team, at that time, if you were working the summer team, you wore sportif shorts. And so if you recall Reno 911, the guy that ran around in the tight shorts, those are sportif shorts, and that's what we wore.
Okay.
I got off beach team just before they lowered the hemline and made everything big cargo dork shorts. So I'm really happy about that because I couldn't have worn any of those dork shorts. I just thought they looked ridiculous. And then if you weren't wearing shorts, like during the winter months, you wore khakis, just khaki canvas kind of pants. And we bloused them for a while, which kind of was stupid, hut. But that's just what we did. And you wore it with your boots.
Your boots on the sand?
And of course you had
Really?
Yeah. But the shorts, of course, you wore with white sneakers and white, ankle socks or something like that.
Yeah.
So it kept you cooler. You were still hot because you're out being very physically active in the summer months. Chasing people, fighting people, getting beers dumped on your head.
No kidding. Wow. Well, walk us through.
That happened to my partner.
Oh, I assume the person involved got to be a guest of the county, at least for a little while?
I don't think so, because we were walking down an alleyway and it came from over a roof.
No kidding.
So I don't think we ever got who it was. Of course, I had a big laugh at it, which was not all that funny, except to me. But it was a good time.
Yeah. So, I mean, to clarify then, in San Diego, I mean, the city comes right down to the beach. So you guys were really more on patrol on the waterfront, and it just happened to include some beach. Is that probably more accurate?
It's true. So we had two beach teams. There was one for Western Division, which handled the Ocean Beach area, Sunset Cliffs down by the Navy sub base and Cabrillo National Monument. So that was Western Division. And so they handled all that. And the Obetians, they were still pretty much caught in the 60s. It was a different breed than you got in Mission Beach and Pacific Beach and La Jolla. Now,
Really?
La Jolla, we rarely got up to La Jolla because most of the concentrated effort was Mission Beach and Pacific Beach. And then also, when the Over the Line tournament happened every summer, the first 2 weekends after 4th of July, then our sole purpose in life was be out on Fiesta Island handling Over the Line. Do you know what Over the Line is?
No.
It's an interesting sport. It's played in the sand on a triangular field, if you will, and you pitch to your own teammate. And the drill is you hit the softball out to the outfielders. Don't ask me how it's scored. I don't care. Mostly, this Over the Line tournament was sponsored by the Old Mission Beach Athletic Club, which is nothing more than a bunch of drunken old beach guys who
Beach
like
dudes.
to look at girls in bikinis. Yeah.
Okay. Well.
And they had the Mission Beach, Miss Ombach, I guess it was. And her name was Miss Emerson. Because Emerson big tits.
I was going to say Missy Emerson, right?
Missy Emerson.
Yeah.
And so this whole Fiesta Island gets shut down for these 2 weekends. And every single team that is playing out there, there's probably about 4 to 6 different ways you could interpret their team name.
Okay.
All adult themed. And there was a t-shirt booth, and part of the gig there is if the women walked up to the booth and flashed their girlfriends, then they got a free t-shirt.
Oh, okay. did
I got
law
2 free
enforcement
t-shirts.
Wait just a moment. Let that sink in. Okay. I assume you weren't on duty?
No, actually, I was. But I flashed them my vest.
Oh, okay. Well.
And luckily, that did not end up in the next year's program, because that probably would have been an IA issue.
I was going to say. Wow, I'm rarely at a loss for words. You caught me there. Good thing I wasn't drinking my coffee, or there'd been a spit take on the camera. So, okay, well,
I'll send you a picture.
Okay. Well, that paints a pretty vivid picture of what it's like. So, walk through. Okay, you guys have had roll call. You've made it to the beach. It's the 5th of June, and you're gonna go do your thing with, I assume, a partner. Talk about what if there's such a thing as an average day hitting the beach, hitting the sand.
So basically, you have no weekends. You are weekend crowd. Day team comes on, and you just start fielding fight calls, disturbance calls, just patrolling the beach, making sure there's no glass bottle violations. The transients and the drunks. It's 24 hours a day.
Really?
So that is your day-to-day activity. And the reason you're shagging all those calls is because the beach parking lots can get filled up pretty quickly. So you're going around from disturbance calls and fight calls. And there were some bars, of course, that were very close to the boardwalk. And so there would be associated cat calls and fights and just stupidness. And so you're also enforcing drug laws. I mean, it's easy pickings down there, especially when you're on foot or if you're on your bicycle or on an ATV, because you could be cruising through the parking lot and see stuff happen. But because you're not in a marked police car, it's almost like you're unnoticed.
Yeah.
So that's what your day is. And you get all of this training on how to enforce some of the lesser known city codes.
Oh, really?
You learn to interpret them and enforce them to the letter of the law to get you to be able to contact some of these people. And where you go from that is, you can make it or break it if you so choose. What else? Daytime. Oh, vendors would have special permits that would allow them to sell ice creams, Hawaiian ices, hot dogs, the little carts. And we got to enforce that too.
Really? Wow.
Yep. Trying to keep everybody happy.
It sounds incredibly varied. And I can only imagine from my own experience in law enforcement, people, especially after they've had a few adult beverages, they don't want you to harsh their buzz. Do you get a lot more negativity, or is it about the same as working a road patrol?
I think it's a bit more negative. Certainly, my tolerance for dealing with people that had been drinking to excess became about that much tolerance. Like I said, lots of fights. Drunken sailors would come down and Red Onion Bar restaurant had a restaurant down at the Plunge. It was this big Olympic sized pool and Belmont Park. So there was a old wooden roller coaster, and they came in, and despite having some very strict ABC laws, they still managed to have just an enormous volume of drunks. And I remember very distinctly, they used to sell buckets of Long Island iced teas.
Oh, my.
They came plied with like 6 straws. So everybody's supposed to share this. But it was not unusual to see a single sailor sitting there just hammered because he's consumed this whole bucket of Long Island iced teas.
Oh, my.
So it was not unusual to get called in to there on either drunk calls or fights.
Okay, I'm going to show my own ignorance here. I mean, that's pretty easy for me to do, but so the shore patrol, did you guys ever deal with the Navy, or, I mean, were they any part of law enforcement, or was that strictly on base for them?
Shore patrol mainly was on base. Now, every now and again, they would send out a shore patrol van so that we could offload drunken sailors.
Oh, my goodness.
More often than not, though, you had to take them over to MCRD, the recruit depot.
Right.
Because that's where their facility was, and drop them off. And rarely, you would actually maybe take one back to his ship and wake up the captain, depending upon how bad it was.
Yeah.
Your attitude is everything.
Yeah. So waking up the captain, that was for the one that really got under everybody's skin?
Yes.
I can only imagine how that went.
Only the special ones went there.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure there was... Oh, go ahead.
You're just trying to be as efficient and expedient as you can be in getting the turnover done. If we had a prisoner transport van down in the beach, everybody would try to get their prisoners in at the same time so that the paddy wagon could take everybody downtown.
Wow.
And you always worked with a partner. So that was, for me, I loved it. I loved working with a partner. But you have a built-in cover unit. And it's not unusual for your contact to go south pretty fast. And then the fight is on.
Wow. So you were talking about Roy was on the harbor team, or you were the harbor team. Roy was the Marine unit or whatever. How did you guys decide who handles what? I mean, it sounds like they came on shore. I don't think you guys went on the water, but how did that get divided up?
Actually, every now and again, I would go cruise along out on the boats over on the bay. Now, see, they would handle the Mission Bay harbor, not San Diego harbor, where the Coronado Bridge and all is. That's a separate police department. Ah. So they would handle all of the crime that happened that was water related, and they would also handle boating crashes. So. And they did that year round. So in their winter months, it was not unusual for me to just, go jump on the boat and cruise around and see what there was to do. And also see the beach from a different perspective from out on the water. Yeah. But occasionally a bad guy would think that, hey, I'm going to run into the water. Ha ha ha, you can't get me. Think again, Spanky. Because hey, Roy, come on over here. And so that's, it worked wonderfully well. But we did meet essentially through beach team and harbor unit.
Well, now this may be a hard question for you, but when you think of the beaches of Southern California, I've been there to San Diego Beach once, and it's incredibly beautiful. Mission Viejo and that, or La Jolla, all that area. But there's some odd folks, and there's seals, which that is, as an Easterner, that's totally strange to me. But talk about some of the more interesting calls you can remember, because I'm sure that was a daily thing, but there's got to be a few that kind of stand head and shoulders above the rest.
Well, there was one time, Roy and I were dating at this point, and there was training for the new beach team members harbor unit and all of us. We were getting ready for summer. And we were in a meeting room above the plunge at Belmont Park and doing our thing. And a lifeguard comes running up and he says, oh my God, there's a big gang fight outside. And so we all decided to empty out and see what we could do. The problem is that like none of us were armed.
Oh.
We're all in plain clothes. And it just became, somebody's running. You've watched them fighting, and then here you come and somebody runs and you tackle them any way you can and hold them and try to figure out what's happening from there. And I had run after somebody, caught him, and had him in a carotid restraint hold, but the kind where you're laying on your back and your feet are up around. Yeah. And I'm laying there with him on my stomach, and Roy comes up, he looks down and he sees it's me and he says, are you okay? I say, yes, dear, I'm fine. And so off he goes to his designated person, and I don't know if anybody actually even got arrested out of all of that.
No kidding.
But we did manage to disperse the fight, so I guess it was a screaming success.
Well, I can only imagine, Suzi, you putting a reverse restraint on somebody like that. Did he go night-night for a little while?
No, he didn't go out. It was just a means of controlling him. That's all I was doing. Just letting him
know you were there.
Yep.
Wow.
But fights were quite prevalent. And actually, I just got done having my rotator cuff repaired. And it was definitely beat up over all the years that I did police work. And the beach team was probably a big contributor to that.
Now, see, I got to admit, I'm completely amazed. I thought it was going to be, we took a call here or there. It sounds like it was where the action was.
It really was. Like I said, it was an excellent way to get into really good physical condition. I started beach team, in the summer of 90, I think it was. And I was still carrying around a little bit of the baby weight from having my daughter. And by the time summer was over, I was in excellent condition because you're walking and running on the sand all the time, or you're riding a bike, or you're on a ATV. And so you're constantly moving. Your day goes by, in about 5 minutes. But you're tired, you're exhausted. But you're keyed up all day long, and it's kind of a good way to pass a 10-hour shift.
Yeah, I can imagine. So lots of transients. That's one thing I noticed, and I think the problem's gotten worse since I was out there a couple of years ago, right before the pandemic. And I can only imagine. It seems like, I got to admit, beach transients tend to be even a little more crazier than your run-of-the-mill living under the overpass guy, at least in my uneducated view. I bet you had some real dandies down there, didn't you?
Interesting group. It got real popular for them to all claim that they were Vietnam vets. Okay. And they all started to say, yeah, I was in Chu Lai, man. I was in Chu Lai. And I'm thinking, it's amazing how all y'all managed to be in the same place in Vietnam. And now here you are again.
Yeah.
Having a reunion of sorts. So lots of stories. You don't necessarily want to get me onto my feeling about transients, because they're the scourge of many communities. And unfortunately, I think we have allowed them to proliferate in their numbers because we've been so busy feeling sorry for them. Yeah,
exactly.
So
that's a show for another day, and we'll probably get some hate mail over that one. Yeah. But not to go off on that tangent though, but talking to anybody in emergency services, they're all pretty much of the same viewpoint that, yeah, there's some folks that could use some help, but most of them are there because of the choices they've made and continue to make. And you can give them all the help in the world, but they don't want to live in a facility. They don't want assistance. They want to do what they want to do when they want to do it. And that's pretty much why they're where they are. So
correct. So I agree.
Anyway, but okay, back to the story. You had them taking clothes off a lot, or just, any fun stuff like that?
Plenty of naked people. You've seen one naked guy. You've seen them all. Of course, the bad thing
Suzi
is,
Huntington.
well, the bad thing is of course, when somebody then decides they're going to mace or use OC spray on them. So now it's naked booger man, and
naked booger man.
Yes,
I like that.
And there's nothing to grab onto.
Yeah.
Not even there. Because it goes away.
Well, actually, I think I wrote an insider a couple of years ago about my experiences. I worked a major concert venue for a number of years, and that's where I got my PhD in fighting naked people, because if you've been to a concert, a lot of them like to take whatever they take, and then they've got bugs living under their skin, so they have to rip their clothes off and run naked. And I've chased many a guy barefoot over the stone, the gravel parking lot. Yeah, Ow. And doesn't bother him at all. So, okay, did you guys find a lot of bodies? Was that a normal thing, or were they floating and you guys didn't have to deal with them?
Roy's team usually found they had the floater and the suicide calls. We didn't have too much of that. Mostly what we just dealt with was crimes fueled predominantly through substance abuse of alcohol or drugs.
Yeah.
And a surprising amount of unhappy people with regards to parking issues. It's 2:00 in the afternoon on 4th of July, and you just decided to come down to the beach. And you're pissed because there's no parking available.
But I pay your salary. You need
That's
to
my
find...
problem? Yeah. Really?
Oh, my. Well,
yeah.
I knew what the reality was going to be, but you really make it sound like a little slice of heaven, and that probably surprises a few people. So would you say the reality is very different than the popular stereotype of what the cops on the beach get to do?
Definitely. And actually, if you look up any YouTube videos, you can see some pretty interesting interactions between police and the general public, on the sand. Oh, the officer sees the glass bottle or the whatever out on the sand. Something illegal is going on, and he or she walks over to address it in a nice way. And, well, because we've been drinking or partaking of other substances, they don't want to go along with the program and be reasonable and understand why your presence is needed. And so then things start going south, and then you can start to see the whole crowd forming around everybody. And you can see how they turn into riots pretty darn fast. So really, it's you got to be a little bit more aggressive and ready to do something that you otherwise wouldn't do.
Really?
In another situation, but it goes to poop so fast.
Yeah. See, I didn't think about that angle of it. I really got my eyes open. I mean, I've been in those situations where suddenly you're tremendously outnumbered. But what really shocked me was riding with some friends of mine who were conservation officers or game wardens. And that same thing, when they're doing boat patrol on the lake on the weekend, you go to talk to somebody, and now suddenly there's like 10 or 15 raging drunks around you, and they're not happy. And it's like, okay, this could go sideways real fast. So,
and you're on the water.
Yeah. So I'm just, you have very vividly illustrated that it just doesn't sound like the kind of thing most folks want to be doing. So, but
it was a lot of fun. It really was a lot of fun. But after 2 full years on it, actually probably closer to a year and a half, because I went I started on a summer unit, then I did the full time, and then I ended on another summer. So it was about a year and a half. It was good fun. And, I worked with some phenomenal people. I really did. I think every cop should do something like that at some point in their career, because it's a real eye opener. And it also gets you to read body language pretty quick.
Yeah.
Pretty quick.
Well, fascinating stuff. And I appreciate you taking time out. This was kind of a last second deal. I needed to record a podcast because I'm going to the beach. By the time this airs, maybe I'll be one of those guys on the beach and some poor deputy will be walking by. But I'm not going to be that guy. So
don't drink. Just don't drink. Stop it.
Well, okay. I'll somewhat take your advice, Susie. How about not get drunk and stupid?
There you go.
Simple words, right?
Yep. Don't be stupid.
Exactly. Well, Suzi Huntington, you married to, of course, Roy Huntington, our frequent guest, and I call him my unofficial co-host. You were the editor of American Cop magazine for a while, and now you're enjoying your life there, little house on the prairies of Missouri. So appreciate you taking the time. And as you said, you're in recovery mode. So slow down. Don't try to put Roy in the headlock until your wing is healed. So
no, everybody has told me that this rotator cuff surgery is horrible. It's so painful. And I got to say, I'm not in any pain. And I start PT next week, so I might change my mind.
Yeah.
But my back surgery was way worse, way more painful. So I'm doing good. But thanks for your words.
Well, it was great talking to Suzi Huntington as always, even when I was stunned speechless. Well, before we go, I would like to remind you to please check out our great sponsor, 4 Patriots. If you go to 4patriots.com, that's the number 4, the word patriots.com, type in /gunmag, you will get to see all the great deals and offers exclusively for viewers and listeners to the Guns Magazine podcast. That's 4patriots.com /gunmag. You can get all the great deals and offers for all your preparedness needs and supplies. Well, that's it for this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. On behalf of everybody here at FMG Publications, I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent Wheat, reminding you, now get out there and get shooting.